Hi, this is Tammy Leisher, host of Embracing Change, Talking Through Trauma. The podcast is focused on fitness enthusiasts and movement educators, where we'll have deep conversations that are impacting the movement industry. For example, trauma, health, vitality, the nervous system, and movement. Good afternoon, and welcome to Embracing Change, Talking Through Trauma. And today my guest is Clarissa Sheperd, and Clarissa resides in Sterling, Virginia. And she is first and foremost a mom, and she's a Pilates instructor, a master trainer. She's an author, and she is here to talk about her new book and her journey to publish her new book. And I have, oops, there we go. There we go.
There we go.
I actually have a PDF of it. So, but we're going to talk about her book, Sage Does Pilates. So welcome, Clarissa.
Yes, thank you so much for having me today. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it,
for
Miss
being
Tammy.
here with us. So my first question is, so this is our second go around with the podcast because we had some glitches last time. So can we go back a little bit and talk about the backstory that brought you here with the book and your dog, what prompted you, and how, because you talked a lot about you were 12 and you already read. I mean, there's just a multitude of things. So would you be willing to share with us?
Absolutely. So I guess on the surface level, the idea behind the book began around the time that I gave birth to my first daughter, Sage, back in 2018, because I realized, because I was already doing Pilates at that time, I had realized that there wasn't a book out that really represented her and what she looked like. So then fast forward, I had my second daughter, and I finally felt like I had the time to devote to actually taking my idea and putting it to pen and paper. In regards to what brings me here now, in regards to the book, it's just mainly about that mother and daughter bonding experience and that connection. And when I look back at my childhood, that was something that was a missing piece and a missing factor in my life. My mom and I, we didn't have the closest relationship when I was coming up. Around the time that I was 10 years old, she had abused me, and I was taken from her, and I went to go live with my father. And ironically enough, 2003, that same year, because it happened in 2003, that same year, I also started taking an interest in fitness and exercise. So the two definitely somehow, subconsciously, they intertwined. Um, but in regards to the relationship that I have with my mom, it comes from a place of, at least, and I'm just going to speak on how I feel now. It comes from a place of empathy and understanding, because my mom, she did abuse me, multiple times during that time period because she was under a lot of stress. My dad and her had split up when I was about 7 years old. And it was during those 3 years where she didn't have the right tools. She didn't have the right, outlets to be able to know what it was like to be a single mom, and also have two young kids because my I have a younger brother who was an infant at the time. So it was really, really difficult for her. And because it was so difficult, I think her and I weren't able to form the proper bond that we needed at that time. And unfortunately, she just made some bad decisions that she shouldn't have. And once I went to go live with my father, um, I had to figure out a lot of things on my own. As far as being a teenage girl, she wasn't a part of my life. She was out of my life for 7 years, from 10 to 17. um, how to be, being a teenager, the periods, the tampons, all of that stuff. Um, she wasn't there for that time. So
Mhm.
a lot of it, I don't want to say I missed out, but I will say that my my thought process or my focus just kind of weird, it kind of went through a up and down. That's the best way to describe it. It was very up and down during those years. And I didn't feel like it was steady. And on top of that, I didn't feel like I had an outlet or an out or someone to really relate to during
Yeah.
those times.
Yeah.
So,
Well, first,
mhm,
I would like to say thank you for sharing that story because um, so oftentimes we walk in this world
mhm,
and we don't realize because, we don't wear a badge that says I'm a trauma survivor.
mhm,
Um, and you endured a lot. And I'm just saying,
mhm.
out of compassion and respect, thank you so much for sharing your story um, to let the world see.
Yeah.
Um, it's so needed to talk about, and I appreciate you talking about it and sharing it. Um, I'm just glad that she's in your life now, but I'm
Yes.
sure that it's taken a long time for you to get there with her as well.
It has. We went through a lot of counseling. From the time I was about 12 to 13, we tried to do the counseling. We had supervised visits. Well, not even visits, but supervised counseling. Wasn't
Mhm.
visits till after I was 17. Um, and then even into my adulthood, we had I went to counseling. We necessarily didn't go to counseling together. I went to counseling
Mhm.
because once I had my daughter, I wanted to be the type of mom that I wanted to become the mom that I didn't have. And so I really made sure that I had some of those tough conversations, and that's what counseling helped me with. It forced me to kind of look in the mirror, figure out what I can do better, and it also helped me communicate with my mom in a way that was more receptive to her because
Yeah.
there are things that I wanted to say to her, but the counselor kind of helped me say it in a way that she would be receptive to, and I have a
Yep.
deeper
Mhm.
understanding. So that's
And
why
language is
exactly. Counseling
right.
really helped me with that a lot.
And I think that pulled together with counseling and movement, because you
Mhm,
talked also about your let me see if I think you said you were about 12 when we talked before, and you
mhm.
had like workouts, but already 12 years old, you had
Yes.
made workouts and you had little hand weights. And so did movement help you deal with the stress and the anxiety? I'm sure you had some
Yeah.
kind of anxiety too, and I'm
I
not making an assumption.
No, no, you're spot on. So that's why I said earlier, 2003, I was such a pivotal year for me because in 2003, that's when the court took my mom, and that was a whole thing.
Yep.
But it was also the same year that I started paying attention to what was going on as far as exercise. It was the year that I don't know if you're familiar with the video. Janet Jackson came out with a video called All For You. And I remember seeing her six pack abs. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to look like that. So then I started trying to do push ups and, lifting small weights. And shortly thereafter, one of the Christmas presents that I asked my father for once I moved in with him was small weights. And I wrote my first workout plan. I remember putting it on the wall next to my light switch. And I would write out what I was going to do, and I would try to do it like 3 times a week. So that's why I was like 2003 was very much a pivotal year, and I didn't realize it until I started talking about it. Um,
And
with fitness
and
and movement.
so you had Sage,
Mhm.
and the book idea was there,
Mhm.
and then you had your second baby, also
Yes.
a daughter, and her name is
Samara.
Samara. So hence the engagement for the book to start. Sage does Pilates,
Yeah.
and we talked about like so she's now 5, right?
Yes. Sage is 5 and Samara will be 9 months at the end of February.
Okay. So once you decided you were going to start right, because I've seen you have pictures of Sage when she was little doing like, you might be doing a plank and she might be doing like a baby push up or something along
Yep,
those lines. So we're talking, you started stuff with Sage very early.
I did.
And And so, and I think you also, so how did you start to come about actually writing the book? I mean, because I remember you talking about like so many iterations of the book or ideas that you had put down on paper because you've done a great job at the connection of like teaser, and you said the letter, like the
Peace sign.
peace sign for teaser. And
Mhm.
I think that um, the idea behind like the images and for like for people, you don't remember like even when she was on TV with you and you were doing she was doing the hundreds. I was like, oh my God. Because yes, I live in Michigan, but yes, I watched your video.
Thank you, thank you, thank
But
you, thank
I
you.
should
Yes.
because I think it's like when you can see the backstory behind why it's come to fruition. And I'm going to say to you that, creating trauma informed movement was because I saw a void in the Pilates world when it came to books around trauma and how they impact. Now, somebody else has coined the term trauma informed Pilates, which I respect. It's just a matter of like, this is what like my own like what you've done is you've created a children's book. There are no children's books. There might be a couple now, but
Mhm.
there's tons of children's books around yoga
There are.
because believe me, I taught yoga for many, many years and I actually have lots of books and there's none. I mean, you're the one of the only ones. I mean, I think Charlotte Marsh has
Mhm.
um, Susie Sloth and
Yes.
Pilates and breath work. And then you got Sage Does Pilates. But so can you, how long, once you started doing this, how did you put it on paper to formulate like a theme and other stuff? How did you come about with all the like the behind the scenes stuff with the book?
Great question. I didn't put too much thought and stock into it because it was my life. I just took what Sage and I had been doing for a long time and put it to pen and paper. In fact, a lot of the cues and the words or the similes that you see are Sage's words. I remember trying to explain to her how to do the 100. And she's like, "Oh, mommy, I just flap my wings up and down like a butterfly."
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's pretty much how some of the words came about.
But
Or
you
we were
also,
doing yeah, we were
okay.
doing Swan, which is the cover of my book, and, we were making animal sounds, and, I was like, "Well, Sage, I don't think a swan really makes a noise, but maybe we can make it the sound of a goose, so honk, 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 honk," and that's how we came up with it. Or with the teaser, I thought to myself, "Okay, what looks like a teaser?" And I was like, "Well, I guess it could be a V, but what else could it be? And what's something super visual, you know, not just for a child her age, but even like an older child." And I was like, "Well, peace sign's pretty universal." And I just went like this, and then she did it back to me, and I was like, "Oh, peace sign, peace." And then that's how we just came up with it.
Yeah, but you've also incorporated that into your logo as well.
I have. Yes. My logo is me holding a child
Yeah.
doing the teaser. It is.
Yeah. And like even like leg circle, like the end of the foot is a crayon. And
Yes.
it's just and then I really like how you um like for rolling like a ball, you've got an armadillo. And it's like when you think about an armadillo spine, it rolls into
Mhm.
yeah. And then the other one that I really like too is shell stretch where you've got a turtle and they're round. It's just like the book had a lot of thought behind it. And it's like,
Mhm.
even bridge pose, like you've got a little Barbie car and like they
Yes.
drove, drove under a
She
bridge.
has a Barbie truck and she has
Yeah.
a Barbie car. I honestly took my life with her, my experience and my bonding with her, and just put it on pen and paper. That's honest the
Mhm.
truth. Like, that's what it
And
was for me.
Did
Mhm.
you have to, and you said before, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually hired a graphic artist to help you like
I did.
put put your ideas down on paper the way you wanted them. And I
Yes.
know that you had, like you said, that it needed to depict
Yes.
stage. And
Yes.
like even when you think about like just like her like the beautiful skin color. I mean, it just all of it, her big brown eyes and
It
her
is.
hair,
It is.
all of it.
Originally they had her hair looking different, and I was adamant. I said, "No, I want her hair to look exactly how she wears hers." And it's with beads and braids, and that was super important to me. Even how they did my hair, because I'm on the first page. I wanted to either, if I'm not wearing braids, I either have a small afro, and that's what I wanted in my photo. So I was
And I
very,
and I
very
think
meticulous.
and I
Mhm.
think that and you've also been very instrumental in being what I'm going to just call a one woman show because you've now sent out how many books?
Currently around 250. Yeah. That's
And
all just
where's been
yeah.
the furthest one you've sent, Clarissa?
Just this past week, Sweden.
Went to Sweden. You had one go to Sweden, but didn't you also have one go to Australia as well?
Yes. Yes. That was a couple weeks ago. I forgot about that one. Yes. Yep.
So you're going international.
Mhm. I am. And it's an amazing I'm overwhelmed, I'm excited, I'm taken aback. Those are probably the best words to describe, how I'm feeling because initially when I put out the book, I'm just thinking a couple of family and friends would buy it. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that it would go international or in within 2 months because I just released the book December 29th. So it hasn't even been fully 2 months, and it's already just kind of
That's a lot of extra work to
it is a lot of extra
package
work. It's
your books and do all kinds of stuff. And didn't you say like you've even already had like additional what's the word I'm looking for? Uh like changes to the book, like
yes.
add in, yeah, that's amazing. That's
Mhm.
amazing. But whenever you do something, and there might be a time down the road where, there's going to be a little bit more changes, but like it's, it's that's when you have ideas and you see them come to fruition.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just kind of, but what I like about it, and this is, I actually have a master's in early childhood education, and I love the idea of the parent-child interaction, the parent-child attachment, which is what you've talked about already. And I just think it's so critical when you think about, because you were doing this like during COVID with her, and
Yes.
and she needed movement more than anything during that
Yes.
time. Yeah.
Yes. I think we both needed movement. I think that's safe to say everybody during that time needed some
Yeah.
movement. But for her, with daycare being shut down and me out of work at the time because Pilates studios were closed, we just needed to find a way to connect and stay connected to each other. And I thought that that was the perfect way to bond with her.
It's wonderful. Um, the idea that you took something that was a love for you, and
Hmm.
obviously you're incorporating it with your daughters, and
Yes.
you know you you'll see someday all of this will not be I mean, you'll see what kind of an actual impression that you made on your daughters when they're a little bit old. I mean, I'm sure it's happening right now as we speak, but even more so as they get older and they watch you do all of the stuff that you're doing right now. So,
Yes, and that's my overall hope. If nothing else, if they take nothing else from me, I want them to know that their health is super important and
mhm,
relationships are just as important. Building a bond and building a connection and having a deep, strong relationship with someone, that stuff is invaluable. And I want them
yeah,
to know that just as well as with their health. If they aren't able to take care of themselves, whether it be mental, physical, spiritual, they're not going to be able to take care of someone else. So if they
mhm.
don't take anything else from me, I want them to take those two
Well,
main things.
I I think it's really important to also say, when you think about Pilates, and Joseph Pilates wanted healthy bodies, he
Mhm.
wanted just, I mean, and to me, you can't separate like all of it, like the biopsychosocial, you can't separate any of it. And I think that it's so important to bring it back. And someday my hope would be is that there's no division between mental health and physical health and that they're blended
I agree.
because
They
I
work
just,
hand
it's
in
such,
hand. Mhm.
yeah, they do. They do. And what I find really interesting is that, here you're introducing it at such a young age, but yet there's so many, like in the, like Pilates, I'm just going to use the movement industry that, we focus on it, but it's so good for mental health, whether it's for children, but it's also for adults. And mental health is what we were just talking about. It's so critically important. And especially when you think about movement from a mother's standpoint,
Mhm.
especially postpartum. And there's so many, and I'm not going to go into a lot of history about that because I could go down the rabbit hole with, but you need to move your body, but it's also good for mental health after you've had a baby. Even if you just start by sitting and breathing and then you move your way into other exercises, it's just so important. And I think it was really interesting the last time we spoke because you talked about how you see even yourself like shifting and going to work more with like mothers and children. And, it's, to be a specialist,
Mhm.
to get yourself that title eventually, um, you're going to be, um, it'll keep growing because I have that, um, what I'm just going to say, I have the degrees, but it also takes experience along with it.
Absolutely.
So, and
Absolutely.
understanding that, you know, each step of the way with child development is going to change. And so how you're shifting and changing, you're even equal to go into a sequel of another book as she gets older.
I'm already the wheels are already churning there too, and Samara, my youngest, she'll get her own book as well. But the key, and you touched on some really great points there, Miss Tammy, about, you know, mental health and physical health and motherhood and postpartum. And, you know, that's the underlining of my book, if I'm being fully transparent, because I remember just having I guess my youngest, because I'm still kind of in my postpartum phase. But when I think back to when I had my daughter and she was, 1 and 2 years old, and finally maybe starting to somewhat feel like myself, where I want to start incorporating more movement within my body.
Yeah.
This is a great book to kind of help you get to that point. This is
Mhm.
also a
But
great book. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say too, like just even like some of the photos that you have with Samara,
Mhm.
like when you're teaching workouts and you've got her like, I don't know, I can see like in the baby seat and she's doing things or just like being inclusive of you're building your business around your family.
Yes, and that wasn't my original plan a couple years ago when I first started Pilates and got into it. But of course, life changes things, and I still wanted to have my business, and I still love doing Pilates and movement-based exercises, but I really was like, "Okay, how can I combine the both of these 2 together?" And I saw a lane, and I just went for it, and it just makes the most sense because I'm able to now spend more time with my family and do something that I love to do.
Yeah.
So it really
That's
works out
that's
well.
really interesting that you put it like that because for me, creating trauma informed movement, and I'm just going to say this, it started a long time ago because I worked with children and that were impacted by trauma. So I trained teachers so that that thought was there. And then it's like, okay, how am I going to blend all of this together? And it just happened, but
Mhm.
it's been a project ongoing for me.
For
Um,
sure.
so it's coming. like I see the picture coming bigger now
Mhm.
as I've gotten it's gotten deep as I've gotten deeper into it. So
And and that's my hope, and that's where I'm hoping to go with this is I want to show the importance of that mother-daughter bonding experience. That's really also one of the main focal points is bonding with your child. And
yes,
it's
and it
just
doesn't
through
matter if you're male or female though,
exactly,
because
exactly. I just put myself in there because I'm her mom, but it can
yeah,
very much be a dad, a grandparent, whatever whoever that
yeah,
person is, it could be anyone. It just takes 10 to 15 minutes to do some exercises with your child, and if you're new to Pilates, it's a great introduction to Pilates
it
as
is.
well.
Yeah,
Because it gives you the imagery cues, so it's perfect.
and
Mhm.
it's also adaptable for, let's just say, a grandparent.
Absolutely.
Like just sit on the floor and read a
Mhm.
book and just say, okay, can you do, I mean, even encourage, like, or even sitting in a chair, can you do the teaser? Can you show me what, like, and you could even think about a circle, like, and if they couldn't draw it on the, like, the
Yeah,
idea,
like
but
a
you could
crayon.
make
Mhm.
a circle, like, with your hand. I mean, there's a multitude of ways that you could expand, like, even if you thought about writing another book that would talk about how the engagement, that would be a whole nother conversation.
Oh, man, yeah, that would be
That
good.
it would, like, to like ideas of like how could you do blah blah blah, especially for brand new moms, like thinking about laying the baby on the floor and doing, you
Oh,
know,
absolutely. It's trust
like
me, the wheels are turning already. We're already
yeah,
working on it.
yeah, yeah. And it's,
Mhm.
I think that it's really so unique. And I would like for you to tell people where you are right now with some of the things that you've got going on, because you're going to be featured as an author in your community.
Yes.
Can you talk?
Yes. So I am currently working with Empowered Center for Kids in Ashburn. And what they do is they provide books and services to disadvantaged kids or children. And I'm actually going to be the featured author in April. On April 13th, I'll be doing a book signing and have a bunch of kids, and we're going to be doing Pilates at the same time. So it's going to be fun. And this month, they're also featuring me as a local author to celebrate Black History Month as well. So I'm excited about that. I have a kids Pilates event also coming up this Monday in my area in the DMV. So doing lots of kids and family friendly oriented stuff going on over here. Mhm.
Congratulations. Wow. And how can people find you, Clarissa?
Yes. So they can find me on Instagram or Facebook under Pilates Mommy. That's spelled Pilates. And then Mommy is spelled Mamii. They could also visit my website, pilatesmommy.com. So all spelled the same way. Same thing on YouTube.
And now, is that where they would reach out to you and buy books?
Yes, that is where they would buy books. If you're interested in buying books, there's a couple of different ways. Pilatesmommy.com, or you can pre-order your book now on Amazon because the book is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and also Walmart. So you can pre-order. It won't be ready until March 11th.
Wow.
Mhm.
What? That's amazing that you've now gotten into Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
Mhm.
and you said Walmart. The other
Yes,
one
it's been quite the
Wow.
process and trying to get it into a little bit more, trying to get into more and more people's hands. That's my goal.
Yeah, yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, I would just like to say thank you so much for being my guest. I'm sure this is not going to be our last conversation because there's so much more expand. I see you expanding this in a lot of different ways because, like, you could even do a mom and me Pilates training, or I mean, there's a multitude of things that you could do. Or even if you did a workshop where you did it via Zoom, via Instagram, where you did it via Zoom. I mean, there's a multitude of things that you could do with where the directions that you're going.
Are you reading my mind, Miss Tammy? Because
The
I
direction
actually
that
am
you're go, yeah, the direction
I'm
that you're
actually
going.
already working with somebody. We're probably gonna have a Pilates and kids CEC training because I'm an NCPT provider. So I already got approved for the CECs for it. And so stay tuned because that should be coming out mid-March. So we're actually already in the process for that.
Good for you. Good for you. So, well, thank you so much for joining me. And will you please stay on, and I will give you more details when we are completely finished here. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. It's my lifelong mission to educate and bring awareness to the fitness industry around trauma-informed movement. If you have any questions or subject that you would like to hear addressed, reach out to me at my website at www.studiotpilates.com. Hit that subscribe button so the next time we release our latest episode, you're going to be notified. You can also reach out to me on Facebook at Tammy Leisure. On Instagram, you can also reach out to me at Tammy Leisure, but also Studio T Pilates MI. Thank you for listening to today's episode, and we'll talk to you next time.